Hello everyone, I'm Koa, and this is the IELTS listening prediction test. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. Please keep in mind that all recordings will be played once only. Take a deep breath, pay close attention, and good luck to you all.
You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, this is Medical Help Direct. How can I help you?
Oh, hello. I've got a problem with my back. With it being the middle of the night, I can't go to the doctor. And I wonder if you could give me some advice.
Certainly. But first, can I have your telephone number, please?
It's 03786 439 251.
The man's telephone number is 03786 439 251. So 03786 439 251 has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you are recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1.
Hello? Help. How?
With my back, with it being the middle of the night, I can't go to the doctor. And I wonder if you can give me some advice.
Certainly. But first, can I have your telephone number, please?
It's 03786 439 251.
Okay. And if you could give me your first name, please.
Robert.
And your surname?
Ridyard. That's Ridyard.
And now your address, please.
It's 27 Station Road,
Okay.
Moortown. And do you need the postcode?
Yes, please.
DP17 5HJ.
And your date of birth?
The 25th of February, 1975.
Fine. Now I just need to take details of your doctor.
She's called Dr. Craven.
And the surgery?
It's Moortown Health Centre.
Thanks. Now, can you tell me a bit more about what the problem is?
Well, like I said, it's my back.
Okay. Can you tell me which part of the back?
Lower.
And have you had any problems with your back before?
Yes, I had a bit of trouble last year, in June, I think. Or was it July? No, we went on holiday at the beginning of July, and it had cleared up by then.
And when did it start this time? Has it just come on?
No, I've had it, let's see, since Monday, so that's 3 days now. But it wasn't too bad at first. I mean, I could just about get around, though. I couldn't drive the car or anything. Then this afternoon, the pain suddenly got so bad that I went to bed. I've been bed since, but that hasn't helped.
And do you have any pain elsewhere? In your stomach or abdomen, for example?
No.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10 on page 2. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Okay. Now, have you any idea what caused the problem?
Well, I was tidying up my office, and I lifted a box up from the floor that was heavier than I thought, and I think that's what did it.
Yes, it's easily done, isn't it? So you're in bed now?
Yes.
Have you tried applying heat to the back?
Yes, I've got a hot water bottle. That's usually the first thing I try.
And have you taken any painkillers?
Yes.
And other than that, you feel quite well?
I do, yes.
Right. Now, I can't diagnose or prescribe any medication, but I can offer you some advice. One thing you could do now is to see if ice makes any difference. That sometimes helps. But don't put it directly onto your skin. Wrap it up in a towel or something. And don't leave it on for longer than 20 minutes.
Oh, right. I haven't tried that before.
It can be useful sometimes. Now, have you seen your doctor about this?
No, I just thought, well, everyone has back pain, but I've never had it as bad as this before.
I think you should go and see your doctor tomorrow, and she may be able to give you something to help.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm actually feeling a bit better now.
Good. And you might get some advice from her about exercise. That's often the best way of dealing with this sort of problem.
Okay, I'll ask her.
Right. Now, if you're worried about anything before tomorrow, you can always phone back. Our lines are open 24 hours.
Thanks very much.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2 on page 3.
Part 2. You will hear a principal of a school talking to a group of parents about a 3-day trip for pupils to an outdoor education center. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Good evening. It's good to see so many parents here. Let me begin by explaining why we go to the Outdoor Education Centre. Well, by age 10, we feel the children are ready for a trip away from home, but still in a safe environment and under the guidance of a familiar adult. At the school, we strongly believe children should be encouraged to try different things and not give up when it gets difficult. And that's what the centre is all about, having a go. Anyway, to start with, the sleeping arrangements. For some children, this will be their first time in a tent and away from home, so please prepare them. You can do this just by making sure they have some early nights before we go. Another thing, there's space for 3 children per tent, so we can't guarantee your child will be in with their best friends. So do make them aware of this. Now, you should have received a list with the clothing the children will need in their backpack. But there are some extras. Please provide a packet of biscuits or maybe fruit bars. But these need to go in the box in the school hall, not with the children. Actually, what we do need in the backpacks are bags for cleaning up and for wet clothing, so plastic ones, please. A torch is a good idea, but don't worry about putting money in because there's nothing to buy. While we're on the subject, let's talk about some other items. Cell phones are permitted, but they must be switched off at night and also off during the teaching sessions. Also, for wood carving activities, knives will be provided by the centre, so children shouldn't bring them from home. Electronic games are banned, so rather than bring one of these, children should bring quiet board games. Turning to the question of parent attendance, in the past we've had too many volunteers, so we have written names on bits of paper and pulled them out of the box. But then some parents have changed their minds. So, if you're absolutely sure you can come, put your name down on the sign-up form and the first 10 will be asked to come. Experience isn't required, we just want you to lend a hand. Now, I'm afraid the fee for the trip needs to be paid by the 15th. Payment to the centre is made by school, not by parents. And your teacher will be given your child a form with the school's bank account details if you want to use them to make payments. Otherwise, please leave payment in an envelope in the box at the school office.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Right. Let's have a look the centre. I hope you all have leaflet with a map on the back, and we'd like you to show this to your children before they go. Now, if you look at the map, you will see the entrance at the bottom. OK, so just through the entrance, you'll see reception. Now the wood carving studio. So you see where the main hall is located. Well, to the right of the hall and opposite the kitchen is the new barbecue area, and it's right next to that overlooking Forts Road. It's crucial that children know where the emergency meeting point is. If you look to the top of the map and to north of Forest Road, that's the location. It is on the same side of river as the tents. There's a lot going on at the river, for example, the Conservation Centre. See the building marked kayaks on right side riverbank? Well, the Conservation Centre is between the two bridges just below it. I should also mention that if your child is not a confident swimmer, there are life jackets hanging all along the riverbank. If your children likes drawing and painting, the Arts and Crafts room is to the right of the river, a little further up from the kayaks. OK, so are there any questions so far?
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your
between two
answers.
students, Liz from New Zealand and Scott from the UK, who are working on a presentation about a key historical site in New Zealand. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24 on page 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Hi, Scott. Here are my notes.
Let's sort this presentation out then. The first thing I found out about Stone Point is it's an extinct volcanic cone. You probably know that already, being a New Zealander.
Yes, and there are 2 other cones nearby, which also overlook the harbour.
Right.
Yeah, the first settlers of New Zealand, the Maori, sailed to New Zealand thousands of years after these volcanoes erupted. I think the tutor allocated us this topic, though, because of Stone Point's significant historical role. It's been used by both Maori and European settlers as a place to shelter from attack or launch an attack for centuries.
Yeah, and the fact it was an ideal place for building a village, it would have been quite a sheltered spot.
I suppose the Maori settled there because they thought the volcanic soil would help their crops grow.
Well, they would have realised the benefits of the soil after a few good harvests, but initially the fishing opportunities would have been the attraction.
You're right.
Actually, I also read that Maori regard Stone Point as taonga. I believe that means a treasured thing.
Wow, your Maori vocabulary is improving, Scott. We do have to deal with Stone Point's cultural value for Maori. That's still part of its historical significance. But we need to keep most Maori terminology out of the presentation. Otherwise, a lot of the international students won't be able to follow us.
That's a shame. I'm sure they'd be interested. I mean, I am. But yeah, we wouldn't be able to explain it in the time allowed, so I guess we have to stick to English. Anyway, European migrants turned Stone Point into a lookout point for ships. Then it became a fort, an army base in the late 1880s, and then during the World Wars the fort was modernised again.
It's also been a public park sometimes.
I'd prefer to devote more of the presentation to the military use of Stone Point. There are some great websites about the engines they installed.
Sorry, I wouldn't go into the technical side if I were you. If you start describing mechanical stuff, people will switch off. I think it's more interesting to look at the impact Stone Point had on the people's lives at the time. I mean, for example, there were about 25 years when they used local prisoners to build the tunnels and the underground rooms. They lived there too.
Yeah, I guess, if we can find some first-hand accounts.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30 on page 6. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Okay, so let's make a checklist of things to do. For the early Maori inhabitation section, we have to look at the material we've used again and make sure we know who the writers were and when they wrote it.
Yes, that needs work. And for the part about Stone Point being used as a lookout point, I'm sure we can locate some drawings of how Stone Point looked then and the kind of ships coming in.
Nice. And what else? We haven't got a lot of detail for the reconstruction of the fort. We should add some more information about what it was the prisoners were adding to it.
Okay, I'll do that bit too.
So I'll deal with the section regarding the modernization that happened in the 1930s and 40s. I mean, that's a bit where we have the most visible evidence of historic buildings. I'll ring the Department of Conservation and see if they'll agree to let me film the site. Maybe allow me access to some of the tunnels the public don't see.
Okay. For the 1950s onwards, could you also arrange a meeting with someone from the Department of Conservation to ask them about their restoration work?
I could try. Oh, and just about its use as a public park today. Where is the boundary exactly? Does it go all the way to the beach?
Not sure. I'll check that out.
Great. I suppose it would finish off the presentation nicely if we explain the future plans for the site.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4 on page 7.
Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture on rural development. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on page 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Now, you'll remember that last week we looked at the migration of people from the interior of West Africa to various coastal towns, with special reference to Ghana. Today, we're going to focus on the people known as the Berbers, who live in North Africa. The Berbers inhabited this part of Africa as long ago as the 7th century, and their society was based on tribes which were scattered throughout a number of countries: Algeria, Morocco, Libya, and Mali. However, at some point in the 12th century, the area was invaded by Bedouin Arabs. These people destroyed the Berbers' peasant economy. As a result, many Berbers left their settlements to lead a nomadic life by wandering with their animals through the deserts and across the different mountains. Over the centuries, many Berbers migrated to other countries like Spain and France to work as laborers, taking with them their culture and traditions, and their descendants remain there until this day. Not all the Berbers led a fully nomadic life. There were 3 different groups. Some became farmers, cultivating the lowlands in the winter and grazing their flocks of animals in the mountains during the summer. They are called seasonal nomads. Some Berbers who led a completely nomadic life tended to move from one oasis to another. A third group settled by the oases and grew fruit and vegetables like dates and eggplants, as well as making olive oil, which they used for cooking. Traditionally, Berbers kept cattle, sheep and goats, together with oxen, mules and horses. Now, in the Sahel region of North Africa, that's the area south of the Sahara Desert, the region became and still is becoming increasingly dry and arid. So the Berbers relied more and more on camels for transporting their families and their goods. How did these different groups of people survive in such harsh conditions? Where did they live? Well, Berbers who stayed put in one place built single-story stone houses for protection by quarrying the local rock, whereas nomadic Berbers carried their homes with them and erected temporary tents. Settled Berbers developed various small-scale industries, such as pottery making and weaving, but these tasks were generally left to the Berber women. As you might expect, though, the life of a settled community was governed by the men, who met regularly in the village square to discuss affairs and make decisions. Now let's turn to the Tuaregs, who belong to a nomadic Berber group and move mainly in the central and western Sahara Desert, north of the river Niger. The word Tuareg comes from the Arabic Tawarek and means God-forsaken. Desert Tuareg carried tents made of strips of goat skins sewn together. As many as 40 skins were needed to make a complete tent. If the skins weren't available, they wove mats made of grass or palm leaves and hung them over a frame so that the tent looked like a humped dome. Tuareg society was traditionally very feudal and organized as a strict hierarchy ranging from nobles or aristocrats downwards to laborers whose ancestors had once been slaves. Tuaregs were famous for their warlike qualities and fierce independence. In fact, one of the greatest insults was to suggest to a Tuareg that his father had died in his bed and not while fighting. Tuareg men were sometimes called blue men, as all adult males wore a dark blue veil in the presence of women, strangers and in-laws. Legend had it that a Tuareg man couldn't be recognized unless he was wearing this veil. But this custom of the veil began to disappear as more and more Tuaregs became urbanized and moved to the towns. I mentioned earlier how dry the Sahel region has become, and there have been very severe droughts over the past 30 years. This has meant that the number of Tuaregs living in the area has declined. Those whose animals were fortunate enough to survive have moved away from the southern Sahara into Burkina Faso in order to find new grazing lands for their herds. If there's one city which people associate with the Sahara Desert, it's probably Timbuktu. But what most people don't know is that Timbuktu was founded by Tuareg nomads almost 1,000 years ago. The city became the focal point of the trans-Saharan caravan routes. North African merchants flocked there to do business, and trading in gold and salt flourished. For many years, Timbuktu was considered inaccessible. But today, what is left of the city attracts a small number of tourists. The tourism department of the Mali government employs some Tuaregs who act as guides. Essential, really, when you realize that it's only the Tuaregs who can find their way around the desert using the sand dunes as landmarks. Right, I'll take questions now, before I go on to discuss Tamashek, the language spoken by the Tuaregs, which also has an alphabet called...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.